If you want to, you can.
Okay, cool.
Sweet.
All right, go for it.
Okay, dokes. We've all seen these scans from desktop scanner. They look all funny. They've all been dissected into things. Well, can you switch that microphone off? Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So of course we want to see that this is again in the center of Blender. I mean, that's quite important. If you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, but what does happen when you're putting a tooth on the tooth library, you're just going to have to move it around. So we're not making bases or study models or anything. So, all right. So the first thing that we want to do is, I'm not going to go too much into detail and depth here, but so it's just a basic understanding what this is all about. So we want to be able to manipulate objects. So we're going to hide and unhide things without the H key. So it flips it into different collections. And when it flips it into collection, it does certain things to it, okay, to the models. So the antagonist, I'm going to do a crown with an antagonist, one tooth only, and just demonstrate how this works. So we're going to chuck the working model, which is these three. They are separated. If they're not separated, they can be separated by making a die in the model designer, or we can make a vertex cut. So we've got a vertex cut section over here, which will then, it's similar to the model designer, but it splits it automatically and into pieces. So this is to section it. So the reason why we section it, because sometimes we've got veneers that are joined and we want to be able to cut through them, so we can make a veneer individually on the actual segment. And I'm going to refer to these as segments from now on. So at the moment they are a scan, and I'm going to chuck this into the working models collection. And that will then create a button, and we can hide and unhide it. It's very simple, straightforward. The menus are actually not that difficult to understand. The top one is our antagonist. So we chuck it into the antagonist collection. Okay. And again, we can view it and we can do with it whatever we need to do. That's very important. Then we're going to go to the wax up model because we need a tooth. So we're going to import a generic. You can import your own tooth library, whatever. So we need a 6. So, okay, I'm going to be looking for a 6. I'll take this one, delete the unwanted, and we're going to select that and move it down. Now, because we've got this hide feature going, we can easily place it where we need to place it. So back into the crown module, and I'll hide the antagonist. So we can then place this thing quite simply. So, and it's probably similar to other software. Okay, so from the top view, scale it out a little bit, G to grab, look at it from this side, move it down, maybe rotate it a little bit like this, G key, scale it, until we get a tooth that sort of fits in there. It doesn't have to fit 100% because of course the tooth has to be, it's got to change. I can see it, the tooth is quite far away from the margin here, so I'll reach a compromise, something like that. So we're done and dusted with this menu. No, we're not. We still have to put this into the tooth collection, and that remeshes the tooth, because a tooth library, we all have different tooth libraries with different meshes, and we want to standardize the mesh. So this is what it does. So it's going to remesh your tooth library. So as soon as we put it in here, we can then see it's been hidden, and that's because we want to draw the margin now. But if you want to see it, the mesh structure looks something like this. Okay, so we've standardized that for all tooth libraries. Okay, gets remeshed. Okay, so that menu is done and dusted. This menu I've just spoken briefly about. We're going to draw the margins. Okay, so we're going to hide the restoration, and we're going to select the model, and then we're going to draw, and that creates a different color so that the user knows that he's drawing on, on this segment. Um, Now, these colors we can still change in the future, but this is just a suggestion. Okay, so we'll just, in the next example, I won't be drawing the margins because, it's a bit of a tedious task for now.
Yeah. So Michael, just pause now and then because there's a bit of an internet lag. So during, after a procedure, just let it catch up a bit.
Okay, are you up to speed now?
I personally, I am, but the computer isn't.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay, we can subdivide these if we want to. If you've got a very difficult tooth prep, we can subdivide it and we can then further enhance our margin if we want to. Then what we're going to do is we're going to decide this is a lower model, so we're going to create a surface for lower. So we can't get confused here. It's either upper or lower. We decide, and that actually puts the model into a lower model collection. So it splits up the pathway of the future module. So here what we want to do is we want to focus on the contact. I'm very contact fussy. So, throughout my lab job, it's always been, dentists need really good contacts. And that's probably equally as important as for the path of insertion. So we're going to make a little bit of a model as well. And this model we can later print because it becomes a die. And we can use Wolfgang's nice die thing if we want to, because at the moment we don't have any dies, right? Because you can't make dies with a scan like this, but now we can.
Well,
So
you
we're going to
can, but it'll
create
take
surface.
you hours or days to finish.
Well, that's true. Okay,
Mm.
so this is a contact model. So again, we're using the G and the E. We've got this extrude button. I personally don't like it that much because my muscle memory goes with E and G and stuff. Okay, now we are cutting the mesh. We're duplicating this and we're actually cutting through the mesh. Usually like 95, 98, 99% it cuts. If it doesn't cut, you can subdivide it and then it cut. Okay. All right, so now we've got these. We're done and dusted with this menu. We're going to go on to the next menu. Now we have to decide drill compensation. Sometimes we have, this has been, some people have really put emphasis on this. And personally, I can't see a dentist drilling with a spike of a 1 millimeter spike going upwards so that the drill can come in. But sometimes we do have sharp edges which we need to block out. So this is what this menu actually does. So we select this and then we're going to put our diameter in there. So if you've got a minimum diameter of 1 millimeter, okay, let's put 1.1 or 1.2 in here. And then we're going to expose the thin areas. Now Blender does expose these areas. Sometimes it's a bit confusing because here, for example, if you had to make a measurement from here to there, it will measure like 1.1 and less. And but here, for example, I think this area is pointed out, and over here between there and there it's pointed out. So we can, in the lab, what we would do, if I was making a crown in the lab, I would probably with wax, I would block out these areas anyway. So this gives us a good way of then blocking out certain areas, and others we can get rid of. So with the -1, we can get rid of that. Okay, and plus, so we've got the ability then to change that. You may find other areas that are thin, etc. So then we're going to click on block out thin areas, and that brings up a mass of something like a blob, and then we're going to make an object out of it, accept spacer compensation. Okay, perfect. So far, so good. Then we're done and dusted with this blocking out. Next thing is we're going to survey the dies, okay? Now that red blob is going to be part of the surveying procedure. So we're going to select our surfaces. So these are surfaces, 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to now survey. It's color coded, so green goes with green, upper one would be yellow, would go with yellow. But if you click the wrong button, doesn't matter. It'll give you a warning sign that you've clicked the wrong button. So you can't really go wrong with this, okay? Now this gives us a top view, bird's eye view, and of course we can shift it any way we like. Now let's get a good path of insertion. I don't want to do this because the blockout model is going to extrude straight into that other model. Although it does work, you know, if we do, if sometimes the marginal ridges may extend over the die prep. We've had that a lot in the lab as well. So, you know, there's a way of dealing with that as well. Okay, so then we're going to go block out. Okay, we'll just wait for that. You still with me?
Yeah, Michael,
Wolf?
can you just explain why we're blocking out those blobs that you put on for extra space?
Yeah, so, well, we're blocking those out because the 4-axis milling machines are problematic, okay? They can't, the burr can't reach in certain angles. And this has been made known to us previously that because we only had a blob there, but 5-axis machines, no problem. 4-axis machines, big problems with that. So we had to come up with an idea of blocking those little things out. Now, in transparent, you see the block out model. And if you look carefully, well, you can't see it there, those blobs have also been blocked out with it. So so this is done and dusted. We follow lab procedures, okay? We're going to select our contacts. So I'm going to select this one, select that one, and we're going to name these contacts. And we do that so that we can eliminate the contacts from the abutments, because the algorithms are like really complex, and sometimes in the past that's just mucked me around like you can't believe. So I thought, let's just name the contacts and get rid of them and focus on the abutments. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to select it and we're going to add a margin. So this is a support margin to prevent chipping. Now we can have a 0.0550 microns, or we can have a 100 micron margin. So let's select it and put a 100 micron margin. You see it extends into like a white margin, okay? Now this margin you can make bigger or smaller by clicking on the plus and the minus. So if I click plus, it'll make it bigger, but very, very slightly. It's like 10 micron at a time or something. You can delete this margin as well. You can do all the margins in one go. So you've got like 5 crowns, you just do all of this in one go, okay? Okay, so this is done and dusted. Next thing is in the lab, we need a die spacer, cement spacer. And this it's also an engineering offset, okay? Now notice that these blobs have disappeared, but they haven't really disappeared. They're part of the die spacer. So we've got an auto spacer in zone where you just press it once, it takes default values, or we can go through the motion. So I'll just go through the motion to explain what's happening. So I'm going to take that, add a spacer. Okay, so that's going to bring a red spacer up. And this spacer, we can determine how far or how close we can put this to the margin. So this is a margin distance. Say, for example, I want it very close to the margin. I could put, okay, 0.01. It takes it almost to the margin. We cannot take it to the margin because this thing is going to disappear. Look, okay? So 0.01, or we can move the slider. So if I move the slider, so this is what's going to happen. So here, so the distance away from the margin. Okay, so this is quite cool, I think. So okay, I'm going to put, I think the default is one millimeter, I think. So we're going to then also, we need to be able to make the margin thicker if we want to. So the default is 0.1. If you want to make a thicker margin, not the margin, die spacer, 0.2. So we can adjust the thickness over here as well, okay? Now, once we've done that, we can accept this spacer. This brings us to the safety zone. Now, the safety zone is a zone which gives us an indication of how thick the crown will be, because it's a warning layer for us. So I've got it set at 0.5. If you think you can mill less, you can make it less, 0.4. Or if you think, okay, you need it bigger, 0.6 or whatever, you put it in there. And then we're going to accept the zone, okay? So this completes this menu. So we've done that. If you click Auto Spacer, it does it all in one hit, okay? So let's go to the adjustments of the occlusion. We're going to view the antagonist, and we can hide those contacts if we want to. So contact. We're going to select the antagonist, and we're going to make a cutter. Now this cutting tool, if I click on here, we are able to offset it. Now, we all know in digital design, if you take a face and you cut it on a face, that chances are it's going to be high in the bite. Okay, and I've done a lot of zirconia crowns, and a lot of them have been high in the bite, and it's really annoyed me. And I don't know why. That was before I've sent them out to other labs. And this gives us a good way of controlling how you want this to occlude in occlusion. So if you want the bar to be clear, you can adjust that, say, to 0.2. It's very similar to the blockout. It'll create a layer over the top of it. So let's set this to 0.1, 100 microns. So if your crowns are high, this is where you're going to change it. Okay, apply this offset. Perfect, so far so good. It gives us a glassy finish, and then we're going to accept, we're going to take this crown. If you've got multiple crowns, you'll select all of the crowns in one hit. Okay, we've only got one crown, we're going to select that. That's going to make it in blue. Now I call this a live trimming because it's live. As soon as we move this crown, it trims as we move it, which is super cool, I think. And we can control, we don't want to lose the major anatomy of our beautiful tooth. You may have a fantastic tooth that you don't want to destroy the tooth. So here we get to set how, it's a compromise between the green zone and the actual occlusion. Although the green zone, we can adjust that over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then leave it in live trimming, and I'm going to go into edit mode. And this is now because I want a good emergence profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull this to my margin, and the margins are all marked in blue. Okay. So and this is good because then we've got a record of where we had previously marked our margin. So let's take that above like that. Something like this. Excellent. Okay. We're going to go out of that mode and we're going to apply this. So we're going to trim the restoration. Okay, so the green zones, we know they're thin. I'm going to select it and I'm going to inflate it. Okay, so we're going to just inflate over there and inflate like this. Now, if it encroaches the opposite, we need to deal with the opposite. Okay, because, we've made it bigger now, so we may have hit the opposite occlusion. So I'm going to exit, and then I'm going to click Mark Antagonist. And that should then, if there is anything to mark, which there isn't, it will then clearly show up as a marking. And then the dentist will be able to know that they need to trim the opposing at a specific spot. You can take a snapshot or whatever, and then you know where to mark this thing. Okay. And then we're going to click to finish this stage, very important. Then we're going to generate the crown. Okay, I'm just going to hide the antagonist. We're going to take this crown, and then we're going to click on generate. So generate lower. These are split up into 4. We've got the upper, the lower, we've got pontics, upper and lower pontics. Again, safety features, if you press the wrong button, an error will come up. So that's all good. So let's just click on generate lower crown, and we'll just wait for it. Okay. Okay, perfect. So it's like magic, it's adapted itself to the margin. If I look in edit mode and I look at the mesh structure, I'm very pleased to say I think we've got a very nice mesh compared to a lot of other digital programs out there. Okay. Then what we're going to do is, what we still need is we need to deal with the contact areas. In the lab, we do exactly the same thing. We've got a crown. We've put it in a porcelain furnace. It comes out big as anything. And then now the hard work starts in the lab, trimming those contacts. Luckily, in the 3D digital world, it's actually quite easy to do this. So we're going to go to the contacts, expose our contacts. We're going to choose our contacts. Now, this is also quite a good thing, because, okay, there and there. We can do them individually, or we can do them together. Now, what this does, it creates an object, and we can set the offset of this object. So if you want to have more gap on the one side, because you're going to place a filling, for example, then we can create more space, or we can click the auto contact cutter. Let us do them like this, the manual way, just to demonstrate. So we've got these, okay? We've got it offset at 50 microns. So if you wanted the crown to be looser, we need to then adjust this. Okay, so if your contacts are too tight, you'll adjust that. Then we're going to apply that. Okay. So far, so good. We're going to take this crown and we're going to shape our contacts. Okay. And that brings us into this mode where we can now decide where we're going to, interproximately, if we want to bring this out, we can bring it out. I'm going to hide the lower segment. Okay. And then we can bulge this out. So if you like broad contacts, for example, we're going to broaden this contact, and we can manipulate the contact, and it's like transparent. We can see through it. So even though it bulges through it like this, that's the whole point. Okay, we want to bulge through this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut it. And these things are going to cut the contact away like this. Okay. But we all know we don't want to have concave contacts. We'd like to have more convex, curved contacts. That's been drilled into me many times. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and we're going to then go onto smooth with protection. And that brings up our protective layer on the inside. Okay, so we can't hurt it. And then we're going to then, what I'll do is we can then smooth it down, but we can select our smoothing with that over there, so that we get a similar mesh structure. The mesh structure is a bit big. I may still have to I'll have to make it a little bit finer. So in the future, but yeah. So, and then we're going to do this one as well. And just round out. And while we add it, we can then do our margins as well. So we can just smooth the entire crown like that. And we can smooth the top surface, the occlusal surface. We can do this while we add it, just to get a nice mesh structure. I think that looks quite good. Here's still a bit of a sharp edge. Okay, yeah, that's looking good. Perfect. Okay, we're going to exit smooth. And now the crown is finished. And look how beautiful this crown actually is as far as the mesh is concerned. Okay, we've got a 0.1 millimeter margin, safety margin, and the mesh structure is just perfect. Okay, so from here, we're going to then export this. So we're going to go to finish, and we're going to then take this, click it. It puts it into the center of Blender, because when we mill these things, the point of origin has to be in the center of Blender. We go export, selection only, export it, and that's it. You're finished with the crown. Okay, so I'll just delete that. So that's basically it. We can cut these things back if we wanted to. I can put it in the selection, but this is for the second phase of our beta testing. But if it works, it works. So we'll just try it out. So I've selected my cutback object, and then we're going to paint on top of that. Now, the beauty of this paint is that it will never go through the actual crown because it stops it at 0.5. So we can just paint this like that, a section, and then we'll just cut it away. Okay, just say hypothetically speaking, something like that. Zoom in a little bit, maybe like that. We don't go too close to our margin because we don't want to cut our margin off, okay? So then we're going to click on cut back with protection. Excellent. So we've got our window. In the olden days, we used to put salt and pepper with little beads, plastic beads. So yeah,
It's for
it's way easier to.
telescope work and composite, Michael. It's called Verblendung.
Okay, so we can smooth that as well if we want to, like that, and that's basically finished.
Excellent, awesome.
Yeah, so that's good.
So just a question regarding dynamic and static cuts. Now, with this module, you've just performed one cut. Can you talk about dynamic cuts for larger crowns or bridges?
Are you talking about the
With
articulator?
yeah. Not
Yeah.
to show, just give us a quick explanation or brief, insight into that.
Yeah, so when we at this menu occlusal adjustments, we will then view our antagonist, and that's where we stop. Then what we're going to go and do is then we will go to the articulator. Well, let's just unhide the antagonist. Okay, crowns, antagonist here. We would then go to the articulator. Now we don't need to name these upper and lower anymore, which is quite good because, we don't want to muck around with the object names because this is specifically called something to make this thing work. So in the articulator, we would just simply bring in our condyles, and it is already animated. So I can play this, view right, and it'll play, okay, into my animation, whatever, okay, protrusive and excursive or whatever. Then when this is a tooth library, before we actually make the crown, we would then choose this one. If it's a lower, we would then link it to the lower. So link it to the animation. And here we go. So that thing has been animated, okay, and then we can create a cut. So obviously now if I create a cut, well, I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe not. I don't know, maybe because of the movements it may go on the side or through it. But look, I'm adventurous tonight. Shall we try it, Wolfgang? I don't know.
Don't pull me into this hole, Michael. You're on your own, mate.
So usually what we do is we do it with a tooth library before we generate a crown. Okay, but okay, so I haven't tried this before, but let's just give it a try. So that becomes then our object making the cut. Okay, and that will then remesh it as well, exactly like before. We can apply our offset exactly like before. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this one, and that's become our object being cut. And then what we can do is we can trim. So let me save it, file save, before it crashes on me or something. Okay, let's try and make one cut. Okay, apply a single cut. I don't know if this is actually going to do the job. Yeah, actually it has done the job. Yeah, it's applied one single cut over here. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll go back. When I went back, you could see.
Yeah,
I'm going to just trim. I'll just go for it. Just, I'll just cut the whole thing.
wow. That's a bit ruthless on your anatomy then.
Well, it may be. Yeah, it may be. Cut all movements.
How many cuts? 13.
Hmm.
We need a drum roll, Michael.
Where's the guitar, Andreas? You can strum like something. Stairway to Heaven or something.
Some metal, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. If it doesn't work, that's fine. I can still, but we usually use a tooth library. That's the point that I'm trying to make here, because the mesh of the crown is so much more complex than a simple tooth library, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's obviously thinking, and of course we've already made one cut, so it's a cut on top of a cut, so it may not even work. Maybe if I put the offset a little bit more to 0.11 or something, it probably would have cut by now. But anyway, let's have a look. Yeah, well, it has cut, so we can see the cut. So we'll delete the object making the cut. Okay, so let me hide that. And if you look carefully here, we've got it trimmed out here, there, over here. So it has done it. It has done it. So that's good. That's nice. I'm pleased.
Okay, so another question. Yeah, so regarding emergence profile of the crown, can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
Well, sometimes the emergence profile, you may have you may have like a, what do they call it, a bifurcation, or I don't know what you call it. So or you may have a root that's sticking out. Let's just grab a. So you may have it coming out like this. Okay, so your tooth library is not going to, it's not going to go there. So this is the reason why we're going to pull it to this line over there to get a better emergence profile for the crown. So that's sort of done it. How much time do we have? Do we have enough?
I think it's pretty much up, Michael.
Is it
Maybe we
up?
can open the floor for some questions.
Please do, Wolf.
Yeah.
I'll just stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, feel free. We can see your
Go for it.
hand. Oh, maybe I need to unmute. Okay, try.
So
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. Or
Yep.
who's starting? Yeah, I asked it already yesterday. I have a crown, yes, in a normal blender. Yeah, model designer made it, and approximal. It's very deep, and I didn't found an easy way to edit the margin in the stage where I can finish the crown or before, because I cannot look between the teeth. So normally I should hide the model, not the die, but the model. But the model and the die are together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is why we will vertex cut it. You know, so
Yeah, but Michael,
so we'll,
I actually tried that. I did that today. I tried to replicate what you said,
Yeah.
Andreas, and I ran into the same difficulty. Visually, I can't see where the mesh is. So I think we should look at that situation tomorrow, Michael.
have you got the file? Can you send it to me? So I'll
Yeah,
have
of
a look.
course. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. I can send it to you, but not yet. Yeah, through a mail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wolfgang, you've got the file.
Yeah,
So you
I've
just send.
actually I've replicated the same difficulty,
Okay.
and I will give Michael the blend file so we can get a workaround for that. If you're making a model with a model designer and it's really subgingival, it's very difficult to find the mesh and so on. But yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I hope I do. Yeah.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Yes, guys. Back to the emergence profile. Okay, now let's imagine we've already made the artificial gingiva for the implants, but we are making for the crown. And I want to make a vertical preparation and to extend the crown just to support the marginal line. Can we make that live? For example, when I pull the crown to reflect on the gingiva.
I don't quite understand.
Sorry?
I don't quite understand your question.
Oh.
So you've got a gingiva, did you say?
Yes.
Like yeah.
Yes, like a gingiva mask for the implants, but we're making it for the crown. Okay, after that, I made the crown like I wanted, but I want to manipulate the margin, not the margin, the finishing line, just to make a better emergence profile of the crown. Let's say it's a vertical preparation or so on. Doesn't matter. And I want that to reflect on the artificial gingiva, just to see how it will be in the mouth.
Okay. So do you want to manipulate the margin once the crown is finished?
No, it doesn't matter. I want when manipulate the crown and the margin, that to reflect on the actual gingiva, not just making a cut into it.
I think,
Okay.
Michael, you know how the gum module's got that live cutting tool where you can actually manipulate the mesh. So this would be kind of in the reverse, where you can actually mimic the gingiva and the crown neck to be quite similar. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we should run a few experiments on that.
Yeah, actually the designing process.
Yeah.
The what? Oh, okay. Good.
All right.
So yeah, that's quite good. So we've we're testing this still, beta testing. Obviously, we want to see a few crowns coming out of milling machines or whatever. I'm Professor Amir. He's going to do a few tests as well in Egypt and do a study on the mesh structure compared to other programs. And of course, we want to win the race. It's just funny. But we probably, who knows? I mean, my passion is to have good quality meshes, and that's what we strive to do, and that's the underlying success of everything, I think, you know.
And of
Some of
course,
the meshes are,
yeah.
yeah. So,
And of course,
yeah.
ease of use of the software. That's very important, you know, to have as few buttons as possible, but yet still leave it a little bit interactive. Personally, I'm not a fan of just having wizards, because we want to be able to make more than just wizards. We want to be able to travel outside of the menus as well. So with a bit of learning, you can then improve your skills like that. So that's quite important. And 2.93 LTS is coming out it was supposed to be out, I think it'll be out on the 6th of June. So we're targeting at getting all these modules compatible with that as well, so we can keep up to speed with it. Awesome. Any other questions? No. Super. All right. Then, Michael, I think you've done a really good job, as always.
Yeah, I was going to still do 2 other crowns and some other stuff, but I think we ran out of time. But it's a good start. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So,
when do you think that the model will be available for at the site?
Yeah, so we've got 6 stages of beta testing. Stage 1 is probably will come to an end in the next 2 or 3 days. That is just making the simple crown and then using the articulator with the crown that Michael was going on about in the very end of it. Then we've got making copings, which will follow this one, and then a couple of more other steps: inlay, onlays, and veneers. So we were hoping, I think we're a bit optimistic with 2 weeks beta testing, might be 3 weeks of beta testing.
Yeah.
And then we make the tutorials are being made currently. So hopefully within the month, we'll be able to release the module, which will be good.
Good news.
Excellent. All right. Question?
One question. Sometimes, because I'm making a lot of mistakes, I go 1 or 3 steps back, and sometimes Blender crashes, and the crashes are often after calculating intensive steps. And I'm not sure, is this a problem of the scripts or is this a problem of Blender?
yeah, so this is how it works. Like you said, if it's a very complicated script and you go back a step, so you've made a very complicated thing, you know, and you're going back, then sometimes, well, I've actually fixed all the crashes now. So you should not have one crash coming up. So if you update the module, there should not be one crash. But if there is a crash, please, if you can just trace it back to where it is, because there's specific coding that I can use in the going back stages, so that at certain intervals, these need to be placed so that it doesn't crash. So I've got great abilities to stop these crashes happening, but I need to know when and where they do happen. They haven't happened for me in the last two days or something. So try and just update the module and that. And then if it does happen, please, I need to know that. You know, that's really, really important.
And of course, Mac computers is again different. And I've had crashes in one of the sub menus, but we've addressed that and we've fixed that one. That was, yeah, I can't remember which. It was particular to one sub menu. The other thing that I need to mention is that if there are any Mac users here, the 2.93 will only be compatible with Big Sur version 11 on a Mac iOS. So you won't be able to use older Mac computers, which is unfortunate there. So you'd have to update your computer. But we'll make the modules compatible with, of course, with both Mac and PC Windows.
Isn't that just so annoying? Honestly, it's so annoying for Mac to do that.
Stop trashing the Mac.
but there's a lot of software, not only ours, but other software there that are reliant on older Macs. You know, so you've got to upgrade, otherwise you can't use it. It's
That's
just
right.
rubbish, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
So, well, it is what it is.
yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. And for us, it's nighttime on the Gold Coast. So you guys are just starting your days, which is great. And yeah, I think, Michael, well done. And we're all looking forward to this Crown and Bridge module. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So we'll hold a few more of these previews. Next time we might just do copings, but of course we're all in a rush to get it out as quick as we can. Super.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you.
Thanks a lot for your
Bye,
good work.
guys.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Aye.
Bye.